How can I go to the... Okay, everyone, we are going to start. We hope you had coffee, and now we will go to more scenario modeling and hands-on exercises. During the lunchtime, we were checking with some people already, and there were a couple of questions. How do I know that I have installed everything, that I'm ready to start? So here in the desktop, this is a Windows computer. The ones that have Ubuntu or Mac should work different. But the idea is you should have the QGIS desktop. QGIS, when it's installed, you have multiple desktop links, but make sure that you use the QGIS desktop. If you double click, you will open the QGIS application. Then, when you install OpenQuake, there are two icons. Sorry, let me go back. There are two icons for OpenQuake. One is a black icon, and the other one is a white icon. The difference is the black icon opens the OpenQuake terminal way of running the program. The software runs in the terminal or in a command line. Or in the user interface. So if you double click on the OpenQuake icon that is white, you will see the user interface. So that was the short view. If you have installed, you have to wait a little bit, and a browser will appear with the interface. If you have any issue, raise your hand, and we can go around. We have Sujan that raised the hand that is helping. Tegan will be helping the online participants. Mare is also there for help, and myself. So we will go around and help if needed. Then also make sure that you download the data sets that are in the website. There is a tab called data sets. So go there and download the file. Since we will go a lot to that folder, try to put it in a place that you can find it easily, because some people have it very nicely organized in the home, then you go to My Documents, then to Training, then to OpenQuake, so it's very hard when you have to do it every time. So maybe do a shortcut and you can try to go. We will work a lot with the download folder and with the data sets. So this was the brief. Now we will go back to the agenda, and Tegan will present some work that she has been working on in preparing scenarios for Canada. Okay, so I have to...
Yeah, you stop sharing.
And you have to come here.
So yeah, that should be fine. I'll be. Okay. Can't see the videos. I can't see if I'm on the video or not. I'm here. All right, it's right there. I'm sure people can see me. Okay. Okay. Hey, so if there's, I guess I'm moderating the online, and I don't know if anything's going wrong because I'm presenting. But I think it'll pop up if you guys chat. So you've got it. Okay. So my name is Tegan Hobbs, and I'm a researcher at Natural Resources Canada, and am now working on compiling a catalog of scenario earthquakes that'll be part of the national risk model that Murray's been working on and started to present on. So we figured that because we're doing this training in Eastern Canada, it would be good to have some examples to work on that are more local than maybe the BC case studies that we're used to seeing in Canada. And so we put together 3 different Eastern Canada scenarios that I'll talk about. Just for reference, this was kind of neat. This is a cartoon for an Ottawa earthquake that was published in the Ottawa Citizen. So the motivation for this is to think about the hazard and the risk, and just for maybe any of those of us who are not familiar with how those terms are precisely applied in this field, hazard being the what the earthquake does, that particular peril, and then the risk being how it actually impacts us. So the risk is really at this intersection, the hazard being the earthquake itself, the exposure means who and what is in the way, and the vulnerability be impacted by the earthquake itself. And again, we're looking Eastern Canada specifically. So we already saw some of these slides from the great presentation by Michael, but we wanted to look first of all in Gatineau, which is just north of Ottawa. Gatineau is important because it's, I believe, been selected now for some look into multi-hazard. So looking at not only earthquakes, but also thinking about the impact of floods and wildfires in this region. It's experienced flooding events recently. And it's also critical because it's right next to Parliament. So that first slide, the picture of the Parliament buildings in ruins after an earthquake, it's obviously impactful to our nation. And so this is showing that West Quebec seismic zone, which again, we can see has kind of distributed seismicity, including some events that are greater than magnitude 4, 5, and even 6. So that's the approximate location of the, I believe that one's the Val de Bois earthquake from 2010, which is approximately the scenario that we'll be using. So that was an event that occurred. Then we'll be looking into the Charlevoix seismic zone, or the Charlevoix-Kamouraska seismic zone. It's the most active region in Eastern Canada, and the event that we'll be considering specifically is the 1663 magnitude 7 earthquake, which is quite large. For reference, that's just a little bit smaller than the Ridgecrest earthquake this summer in California. That was all over the news for a long time. So we're in Eastern Canada, but these are still significant events, very large events. So that's right there. Oh, well, that didn't format correctly. But then we'll be looking at a historical event from Montreal. You can read that quote better here, maybe. So there was an event in 1732. It was a magnitude 5.8 right in the city of Montreal. This was a report, a felt report from the time. I like the part about the beast shrieking, redoubling the fears of men. And so I wanted to also pay homage to the fact that there is really great work being done on historical events in Eastern Canada, and including from Natural Resources Canada scientists looking at historical events. Maurice Lamontagne is here. And then also, even in the news, you can find newspaper articles where they say, did you know Ottawa and Montreal have significant seismic risks? And, you know, it can be quite panicking for people. So these are important events for us as earth scientists, financial folks, what's the term? Engineers. We want to have answers for people when they ask these kinds of questions. I think Montreal has the greatest seismic risk in Eastern Canada, that city in particular. So hello everyone from McGill. I hope you're glad you're here. This is what we call a deaggregation. So this was looking at the seismic hazard in the city of Montreal, and then saying if you look at what is the hazard that we would experience that has a 2% chance of exceedance over 50 years, and we break that down into what are all the contributing kinds of earthquakes that sum up to that hazard. That's the kind of plot we're looking at here. So you can see the vertical is that contribution to hazard, and then we have it measured by the distance and the magnitude. And so the Montreal earthquake, that 5.8, roughly sits about here. So you can see it's a relatively large contribution to the overall hazard in the city of Montreal, the scenario we'll be looking at. So this is the ground motion intensity from the scenario. You guys will be producing this map or some version of it that probably is more nicely plotted on your own today, if you choose to work on the Montreal scenario. So we can see it's a magnitude 5.8. It's right beneath the city of Montreal, the depth of 17 kilometers to match with that 1732 event. This is a sneak preview of what the risk impacts from that event look like. So this is, once we've considered the impact, it becomes a very rich data set. And one of the challenges is how do we actually present that information? So this could be maybe quite overwhelming to see all of it, but we can look at things like what are the number of injuries, what are the number of buildings that will be damaged and to what extent. Is there a problem? The video feed? I can't see the video feed. Oh, that looks like the red button. Okay, now I see it, so I believe it's happening. Okay, so yeah, we have a lot of rich information here. I guess I put this up to get you thinking about what are the kind of products that you're going to be producing, and to start to think about, what would be the relevant information you would want to pull out. These are being plotted for reference in a program called Tableau. That's quite a great asset to look at some of these really complex output data sets. This is the ground motions for the Charlevoix event. So it looks like it's actually a smaller event, but the PGA is much larger. So right near the epicenter there, we have over 80% of G would be experienced. And so you can see that it's nearby to Saguenay and Quebec City. And it's a relatively shallow event with only 10 kilometers depth. And this is what that looks like. So again, if we can look at the number of buildings that will be damaged and to what extent, yellow tag versus red tag versus complete collapse. We have information here about the ratio of what percentage of the buildings will be lost. So depending on your end user case, if there are people here from insurance, they might have some subset of this dashboard that's relevant to them. And then finally for the Ottawa event, again, this one's the smallest one that we looked at, with magnitude of 5.2. So we have up to about 10% of G, but it's right near to Ottawa, and so there would be felt impacts in Ottawa at a depth of 21 kilometers. And I'm so sorry that things are not plotting correctly. This was my first time using Keynote. And so this is that dashboard. I don't need to go into it. Oh dear. Okay. So this is something else I wanted to show because I am just in my first few months of using OpenQuake, and one of the such a powerful tool that actually one of the biggest challenges I found is what do I do with all of the incredibly rich information I get out in the other side. And having an interest in science communication, it's a really great challenge of what do I do with all this data. And you can really tailor it to your individual needs. So here's just examples of products not products, but imagery that I've made for different partners that have come to the federal government and said, I need to understand the risk to, for example, the Victoria General Hospital. So I did a study looking at what, for the worst earthquake that could hit Victoria, what are the number of people that will be coming into that hospital? How many of them will need pediatric care? How many will need geriatric care? How many will need to have EMTs out in ambulances? And how many will just require first aid treatment? So that might be a case for them. Another one, a project with the City of Vancouver and the General Metro Vancouver area, where they wanted to know about the amount of debris that would be produced from an earthquake, a deep earthquake beneath Vancouver. So we're able to give them a map of how many tons of what kind of debris will be produced, but then also they said, well, how many dump trucks do I need to drive around the city to get that debris out in the recovery phase? And we can convert that and give them a map, or not a map, but a total here and say, you're gonna need over 1 million dump trucks to clear out the debris from the City of Vancouver. So hopefully in today's scenario, we can give you something that's local, and you can also take out of it the information that you find the most interesting, and start to think about what questions can you ask with this tool, because I think it's really powerful. So that's all for me.